Oh, I love it when you whistle. Hey, everybody, welcome to Crossing the Streams, episode 85. Can you believe it? 85 episodes.
It's a ocho cinco of episodes.
I think there was just one family event and an insurrection that kept us from going live. Other than that, we've been here every week for well over a year. Coming up on 2 years almost. Wow, that's kind of crazy if you think about it. 85 hours streaming right now on YouTube. Crossing the Streams, we answer the universal question. Hey, what should I stream next? I just finished watching something and I got to watch something else. Well, you've come to the right place because we've got an array of experts, over 10,000 hours of TV watching experience amongst the four of us today. And we're here to share it with you. We have now regular Mike White returning and newbie Doug Cohen, straight off the University of Michigan linebacker or something. I don't know. Anyway,
outside linebacker.
He can explain it later. We're gonna
speed, strength.
We're gonna let Doug start the theme song. We always start with the theme song. Take it away, Doug.
Okay. Here's the story of some lonely fellows who spend way too much time watching the TV. All of them have jobs and friends, we think. Well, not really. Just between you and me.
Michael.
They made a live show out of their hobby. Every TV watcher's TV watching dream. Jeff, Ron, Sal, and Bob, and there's Howard. They call it Crossing Streams.
Right.
Nicely done. And then one day they went live on all the platforms. You could hear the people laugh and shout and scream. Still can't find another word that rhymes with platform. But man, we cross those streams. Here we go.
We cross the
streams.
We cross the streams. That's all right.
the way we do
it. Cross the streams. It all goes bad on that last one.
It was beautiful, but it was rough.
Always goes bad. But the mics cannot, StreamYard cannot handle 4 falsettos. All right. Well, let's let Mike White remind us all where he's from, and then we'll get to it.
Well, I'm from right here in Michigan, don't you know? Just right outside Detroit.
And you sound like it.
Tell everyone about your awesome podcast and stuff.
Well, I don't know about the awesome podcast, but the projection booth, we've been doing it for 11 years, a little bit over, and coming up on our 600th episode. I was just counting the other day, trying to figure out which one's going to be the 600th. It might be Sunset Boulevard. So we cover everything from the art house to the outhouse, and just really just talk movies, make incredibly way too long episodes so people tune out within the first 20 minutes, bore people to death. But one of these days will be appreciated, just like fine art.
That's how I feel about mine. One day it'll end up in the Smithsonian. They'll do studies on it. They'll realize how brilliant it was.
Welcome to the podcast wing. Here is Classic Conversations.
That's how I feel about my velour sweater. I'm sorry. Please continue.
I feel that way too. Doug, new to the show, first time here,
Nice.
first time caller. Doug, also from Michigan. We got a full Michigan crew here.
Gotta
Doug,
love it.
tell everyone about what you do.
Gotta love the Michiganders. Well, yes. So I do lots of different stuff. I'm actually streaming and joining here from Frameable Faces Photography in the Orchard Mall, which is my primary gig. And there goes Allie. So
Nice.
Allie Cohen, everybody.
Hi, Allie.
Hey.
It's a photography studio. She's the photographer. I do the marketing and social media and all that stuff, which led me to start M10social.com, which is my digital marketing company. And then I also launched virtualpetcations.com, which Jeff so graciously plugged on Classic Conversations, where you can send in a picture of your pet. Tell us where you want to send them on a virtual pretend trip, and we'll send them there and blog about it. And then you can share it with all your friends and be amazed. So
That sounds awesome.
That is amazing.
so I do a lot of stuff. I'm an entrepreneur now. I love it.
An entrepreneur. All right. And he used to play football, and
I did play football at Michigan. Yes, I did. for the late great Bo Schembechler back in the day. And yeah, go blue, baby.
Go blue,
And
baby.
trivia on your wife, which I haven't probably remembered for 40 years, is I think growing up, our phone numbers were one off from each other. I think they're very, I think, if my memory serves correctly. Anywho, let's see who's been commenting. We got Jerry. Ron, where the hell have you been?
Chacon. Chacon.
Yeah, Ron is back. He was on sabbatical, scouring the globe for new shows to discuss. Lee, what's up? Always good to see Lee. And then
Good to see you,
Ron
Lee.
tends to spend half the show commenting as himself.
I comment on my
as
own
well.
show.
But so we have a fun show for you. I want to say first, I know Doug hates superhero movies, but all the superhero DC movies seem to be collapsing. Shazam 2, Aquaman 2, both delayed like a year. They canceled Batgirl, effectively have removed the thing I was most waiting for, which was the return of Michael Keaton as Batman, gone from the earth pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
He was supposed to be in Aquaman 2. They replaced him with Ben Affleck because it wouldn't have made sense. And then The Flash, they seem to be still planning on putting that out, even though the guy's, what did he do? Groom people? I think he's done more than everyone else combined.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Sorry, Mike. Please go ahead.
I was just going to say there was grooming. I want to say he broke into somebody's house as well. It's tough to keep up with all the news stories that come out about Ezra.
Yeah, it's bizarre, that guy, and they spent so much money on that movie. And then Supergirl got tanked, and then everything just started falling apart.
So Jeff, I am on record, as you know, I cannot stand any superhero movie. I don't like Marvel. I don't like DC. I don't like any of it.
I like this guy.
I will say this, I happen to live with an 18-year-old absolute superhero Marvel DC freak in my daughter, Caroline. She has seen every thing there is out there and all the stuff surrounding it. So it might interest you to know that when I asked her about some of the stuff that's going on right now with DC and with Marvel, she said the following: "It's time they shut this whole thing down. That it's run its course. That everyone who was into it before is not into it anymore. They've done too many. They diluted the brand, and it's time for them to stop."
Just DC or Marvel too?
Both of them, Marvel and DC. They tried to fit too much content into too short a time frame for the money, and I respect it because listen, they got to make money. I respect that, but it's enough, and I think people have exhausted of it. So
I'm exhausted from it. I watched She-Hulk, and I thought She-Hulk was. I mean, my life's not better for watching it, but it was somewhat enjoyable. The greatest thing I ever saw. No, I don't love Smart Hulk.
Yeah,
just don't.
Yeah, the thing that I liked the most about that episode was what they didn't explore, and I wanted them to explore it a little bit more. Was Hulk makes 2 references to Tony, and it's like, oh, I forgot, like, you guys were friends, like maybe you should be affected by his death. He kind of pauses for a second, then just moves right on. I was like, oh, I kind of wanted a little bit more pathos there.
That would have been nice. I love She-Hulk, like the character of She-Hulk. I love, and I think when she's She-Hulk, it's great. But all right, but for both of our superhero haters, Ron and Doug, later in the show, Mike's going to talk about The Boys on Amazon. Mm-hmm. Now, this is one of our real first repeats, but however, The Boys was covered in episode 2, where this is episode 85. The Boys has come a long way since we did it in 2020. It was probably season 1, actually, only. So there's been 3 now seasons of The Boys. So I felt when Mike brought up The Boys, I'm like, it needs its proper due. It is a whole new thing. And I will, not to spoil Mike's thing, but I think at the end of it, I'm going to convince you guys to watch that. And I think you'll really.
Well, Doug, let's we're going to have to gird our loins about the Boys and sit through that. That's okay. Yeah, hey, my daughter talked me to watch the series, what do you call it? Incredibles?
Oh.
The cartoon, whatever it was.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just okay. I'm not gonna lie. As Jeff just said, I'm not better for it. So,
All right. Well, let's before I forget, let's cover the drinking game.
yeah.
If you have anyone on the show drinks, you drink. If we have a technical issue, drink. If we have to be asked what platform the show is on, drink. If Mike White's on the show, drink. If they put us up on the screen, if they put your name on the screen, drink. If we forget an actor's name, drink. If Doug or Ron show off their U of M helmet that they both, for some reason, have always by their side, drink. And then also just a reminder that the war is still going on, even though Kevin Sorbo doesn't want a penny spent there. I still think it's worth remembering, and we kind of should be with them. And
there's no boxing today, and there's no rom-com. So I have to tell you, I'm a little lost coming back to this show today.
I know it's a different kind of show. So let's recap last week's show, episode 84. We talked about one of my favorite hilarious movies, Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Talked about Prey, which interestingly enough, worth mentioning again, apparently there's a Comanche version where you can watch in Comanche.
I hear that's dubbed, that they didn't actually shoot it in Comanche.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I guess everyone who knows Comanche will be disappointed.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if somebody said it was, but anyway. And then The Sandman, and then Untold, which is Sal's second non-rom-com thing.
I'm so sorry that I wasn't here for that, Jeff. Are we able to still comment about that if there's a little extra time today?
Yeah, we can catch it at the end. We can catch it at the end. And then today we're gonna talk in full on Operation Mincemeat, Homecoming, and The Boys, which has been teased. And then I kind of want to do we've covered these on the show already. I've been waiting to talk about this because Ron's been gone. Ozark and Only Murders in the Building just finished their second season. So I wanted to kind of mention that. So those aren't going to be full things, but I wanted to kind of have you guys seen Only Murders in the Building?
No, I've been wanting to. I downloaded the first season. I haven't watched it yet.
I am the only one here who's watched it. All right, that's a Chandra.
It's a Shonda.
It's a Shonda. All right, so Only Murders in the Building, let me just recap, is Steve Martin and Martin Short and Selena Gomez. Probably the best three people working together. Their chemistry, they're hilarious. Martin Short and Steve Martin alone are always hilarious. Dig up anything on. There's a Netflix special, which is the two of them, which is like a 90-minute variety hour. Amazing. Anytime they're on a talk show, stop. Their banter back and forth is like whatever banter you have with your hilarious best friend where you just rip into each other. This is what they have, and it's beautiful. So Only Murders in the Building, I'll say in totality of season 1 and season 2, is one of the most enjoyable shows you can watch. Okay, it's just enjoyable. It's Steve Martin writing it and creating it, so it's very witty, it's very creative, and in a lot of episodes it goes places that I think other places haven't gone. There's one episode in season 1, one of the characters is deaf, and the entire episode, no sound, is all from his point of view. I found it to be one of the most fascinating episodes I've ever seen of anything. I was mesmerized by it. And so season 1, every season, well, now there's 2 seasons. So there's a murder in the building that they have, and the 3 of them come together, and it kind of taps on the true crime podcast phenomenon. So they start a podcast called Only Murders in the Building because they decide they want a niche. So they're only going to do murders in their big building. They live in this building called the Arconia, which I guess is some fancy place that you live forever in New York. I don't know. So anyway, so they decide they're going to cover this murder. And they, of course, like all podcasts, it's just start that nobody knows by 80-year-olds. It becomes hugely successful. Right. And then
that's how it goes, man. You start a podcast and immediately become successful.
So anyway, so I won't give away any of the specific plots or anything, but it's very clever the way they solve it, but then they work a new thing right into it. And then that's where then season 2 picks up. I'll say with season 2, it wasn't as tight as season 1 in terms of it probably could have been an episode or 2 less, but there are moments of brilliance in it. And I think if you're going to watch it straight through, or like meaning you don't have to wait a week, I think this one benefits from that. Season 2 will benefit a little bit more from that. Not every episode, but there was a couple that felt a little filler. But I will say that the finale, which just aired yesterday, one of the best. I'm not even going to go into, well, they did this and this and this, and I'm not going to even tease what they did, but I promise you it ends better than you could have ever expected. It was great. And then, of course, they set up, I won't ruin it, but there was a news person that decided to ruin it like a second, and there's a cameo, which is then there's this huge new star for season 3. So definitely check out Only Murders in the Building. It's on Hulu, and I promise you it'll be just a really, really enjoyable. You'll laugh. It's clever. It's a great little mystery. Everybody in it's great. So I think it's totally something you need to check out.
So this is actually, for one thing, I want to talk about Hulu for a second, but I just have to say I'm the biggest Steve Martin fan in the world. So, and I love Martin Short as well. So it is a Shonda that I have not watched this show yet, Jeff. So I will, my promise is I will get on the show this week, and I'll report back about what I think, because you're right. I think it's a missed opportunity. The other thing I'll just say is I feel like it might just be my opinion, but I feel like Hulu is starting to fall behind in its content in comparison to the other networks. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I don't find myself yearning for Hulu anymore.
I don't think I've watched a lot of Hulu shows. I feel like most of my favorite shows are still Prime and HBO, and the occasional Netflix. Yep. I can't think of a lot of Hulu shows that I've really been tied to.
I like the Melissa McCarthy show. I forget the name of it. We're with what's his name? What's her name? Tom Cruise's ex-wife, Nicole Kidman. I forgot the name of the show, but that was
Nine Perfect Strangers.
9 Perfect Strangers. I thought that was interesting, but again, that's a limited series. It wasn't, they don't really have anything.
They have something called Woke, which was pretty good, but there's nothing that like pops. I think Only Murders in the Building, to be honest, was their first like major hit. Like a year ago when the first season came out, I don't think you could be on any kind of media and not see an ad for Only Murders in the Building. I mean, they put all their money into this show.
Yeah.
And I think they have What We Do in the Shadows. They had the Orville's, but now the Orville's on Disney Plus.
Right. Yeah.
And so I find myself watching it on Disney Plus. I've been rewatching it.
Has it moved over all the episodes?
Yeah, they moved all.
Wow. Okay.
So the only it goes dark for a second where the commercials would have been, but just because it was a network. And then so I'm rewatching it to do my part to hopefully get it renewed.
Yeah.
But
that third season was very solid, I thought.
The third season I thought was one of the best shows I've ever seen. Yeah, I love it. And then Handmaid's Tale. I know, Ron, you like that. That was on. You're right.
Hulu. Good call. Forgot about Handmaid's Tale.
They've had a few, but I agree that but even HBO Max now is like shedding everything. They got rid of their Elmo talk show. Anyway. All right, well, let's keep going, because I promised I put a lot of pressure on Mike to bring the boys home. And so I think let's talk about The Boys on Amazon. This is an Amazon Prime original.
So The Boys was based on a comic series by Garth Ennis, who has worked in comics for, decades now. Used to work at 2000 AD. They did Judge Dredd. He did some Judge Dredd stories. Did he do Punisher? I can't remember, but I know he's worked in just a ton of stuff, but this is one of his things, and he did it for, I think it was Wildfire, an imprint at DC. And he mostly, if you don't know Garth Ennis, you might know him from Preacher, which was adapted a couple years ago. And I kind of lost interest in Preacher. I loved the comic book of Preacher, but the TV series was a little long in the tooth. It just didn't move very quickly at all. But The Boys, completely different story. So The Boys, it's set in a world where superheroes are real, and basically they're dicks. And it's just this whole idea of wanting better numbers for media and just all about opportunities for press, all this kind of stuff. It is just, it feels very, very real. And there's all this corporate intrigue that's going on, stuff to do with the government, all this. Each season has been very fascinating because each has had a really nice arc to it. It feels like each season could end where they wanted it to end. Like there doesn't have to be a next season. It feels pretty complete, though those overarching stories from season 1 now to season 3 have been very good, very well done as well. It really concerns kind of two factions. There's the boys, who are this group of people that dislike superheroes immensely, and they basically want to kill superheroes or get them under control somehow. And then there's the superheroes themselves, and they belong to a group, the main ones that we deal with, called the Seven. And the main person from the Seven is a guy named Homelander, who is basically kind of Captain America and Superman all rolled into one, and he is absolutely psychotic. And the guy that plays him, he does such an amazing job. He can just, you can see the crazy behind his eyes when they do close-ups of him. He's wonderful. It's so well done. So he's so great as this psychotic superhero who wants everything to go his way. He's basically the biggest spoiled child in the world. And then on the other side, you've got Huey, who's played by Dennis Quaid. And I can't remember if it was Meg Ryan was his mother or is his mother, but Jack Quaid. And then Carl Urban over there as Billy Butcher, who, man, I love his character. He's basically the vampire character from Preacher, but not a vampire. He's just swears all the time, Cockney accent, fantastic. But yeah, each season has just kind of looked at a different aspect, taken the story from one thing to another. The first season really deals with Huey and his girlfriend, who just gets destroyed by a guy who's basically the Flash, who just runs through her one day while she steps off of a curb, and boom, just blood everywhere. This show is not for the faint of heart. Blood, mucus. They specialize in ropey blood. Of hearing the special effects person today talk about the different types of blood that they like to use on the show. So a lot of ropey blood. There's a scene involving a whale. I can't remember if that's season 1 or 2, that just, it'll turn your stomach.
We have a rule in our family, because Robin loves this show too. She'll watch it. We have the rule in the family is you cannot eat during this show.
Oh,
it's
no,
not like a
no.
rule like where you can't eat. It's like you literally cannot eat.
Oh,
so we have to be done. It's not like a watch while you eat dinner type show.
I made the mistake of putting on the first episode of the 3rd season while we were having breakfast one day.
Oh, that's a mistake.
Yeah, especially the little guy Termite, what he does with his lover's penis. Wow. Yeah, it's really bad. Yeah, so it goes a lot of places. In this last season, I really wanted to concentrate on talking about it just because it made so many clever political jabs. And it was one of those where if you're not really paying attention, you don't really necessarily have to pick up on them. You might just easily breeze by a lot of this stuff. But the one that really got me was there's the super fortress that the Seven work in, and Homelander's there, and he's got his Aquaman guy, the Deep, who he's basically just kowtowed this guy to no end. All of these other superheroes are there, and they're serving all of these taco salads in the tortilla bowl kind of thing. And I was just like, are they going to do this? Are they going to do the remark on Trump when it was Cinco de Mayo, and he's there in that picture with the big shit-eating grin, and he talks about how Trump Tower has the best taco salads? Sure enough, yeah. Oh my gosh, this building has the best taco salad. So it's just all of these great little things that really point to the political divide, and just, basically the love for Homelander is very divisive in one family, and it says a lot about like the MAGA atmosphere. It is really, really well done. So you've got that, plus it's a very compelling, gross, and engaging story.
I would say that this is made for exactly the two of you. For people who love superheroes, but even more importantly, for people who probably don't like superheroes,
Yeah.
because I think this is almost an anti-superhero show, right? So everything that you hate about Marvel and DC is exactly why you'll love The Boys, and throw in all this amazing Seth Rogen hilarity and the
Oh,
great
God,
writing.
yeah.
It's brilliant writing. Gross as hell, don't get me wrong. Um, but in political undertones, it has all the best aspects of like sci-fi. It's not sci-fi, but like where they can, like Mike was saying, pull in on the different stories. But I'm telling you, this is one of those shows too, where every episode is crazier than the last.
Yeah.
And you will get addicted to this show. And it's one of those like where it's built. Like I feel like lately, like when we talk about like Severance and stuff, now that I think they've taught people to, oh, you're gonna watch all 8 episodes. Severance doesn't have that dopamine at the end of the episodes. To me, it's like 7 episodes of blah and then a good 8th episode. The Boys is pure. The Boys is season 1, episode 3, boom. Season 2, boom. I mean, like
Yeah.
more stuff happens in one episode of The Boys than happen in the entire season of like Severance or something like that.
And you have no idea what's going to happen from scene to scene. There are so many things where you're just like, wow, I can't believe that just happened. Characters dying, things happening. No one is off the table as far as who can die, who can suddenly gain superpowers, any of this kind of stuff. You never know which way these episodes are going to go.
Yeah, I guarantee. I put and I'll put it all on the table. Mike and Jeff's complete reputation. You guys would love this show.
So how
I can't promise Allie will love it, but I know.
Right.
How many seasons are there?
3.
3 seasons. So how many episodes into the first season do I need to go before I know whether the show's for me or not?
First.
Okay.
Great question.
Yeah. First episode. If you don't like the first episode, you're not going to like it.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's fair.
That's fair. Yeah. Because I get told by my son all the time that I need to watch Joker or The Joker or whatever, because it's not really a superhero movie. You don't have to love superheroes. You'll love it. I'm like, is it in the superhero universe? Is it about the Joker who is in superhero movies? Yeah, but no. Not
Well, no, this is a little different. So like Mike was saying, like every one of the superheroes that Superman, Wonder Woman, Captain America, Aquaman. There's
Captain
all
Caveman.
other. Which one?
Captain Caveman.
Yeah. There, I have of course Captain Caveman, but like there's a version in this show, but it's like a made up version. It's a ripoff of that character to make fun of the character. Like the Aquaman character is useless, and they constantly make fun of it. And he has like, I'll just say it. He has like sex with fish and stuff like that. I mean, it's like, it's insane.
All right, maybe this show is for me.
I mean, it's like it goes to the level where you're like,
all right.
Yeah, the stuff with Timothy the octopus in this 3rd season. Holy cow!
Yeah, I mean, we've said too much.
Jerry, it's funny you guys are talking about the octopus, and that's exactly what Jerry just wrote in the comments.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right.
That's great. All right. So, all right, convinced. I will check out an episode or two and report back.
I should probably say it's on Amazon Prime. So,
excellent.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure, like all of you, I am a sucker to literally every payable network that is out there right now. It's ridiculous. So I need to chill out with that.
All right.
Paramount almost got me this last week, by the way. So anyway.
All right. The next show is Homecoming. And this is Doug's foray into crossing the stream.
Cool picture.
The pressure is on. Well, so Homecoming, I feel like this is a show that not a lot of people know about. It kind of flew under the radar, in my opinion. Has anyone else here watched it? Have any of you watched Homecoming?
I've never heard of it.
that is so bizarre to me that no one has heard of a show that Julia Roberts is the star of the show. I mean, it's got an A-list cast, and it just kind of flew under the radar, and she's fantastic in this show. What's interesting about it is it's actually based on a podcast. It started out as a podcast, and I haven't actually listened to the podcast, but they took the premise of the podcast and made it into this show. And I'll go into the details of the rest of the cast, but I mean, you know, you got Sissy Spacek in this show, Bobby Cannavale, Chris Cooper, Joan Cusack, Janelle Monáe, like just crazy cast for a show that nobody seems to know about, which is bizarre. So, and it's really bingeable because there are only 2 seasons and 17 total episodes, and they're between, I looked it up, they're between 24 to 37 minutes. And I feel like most of them are like 24 minutes. Like maybe the finales are 37. So they go by, you can knock them out really fast and be done pretty quickly. It's only 17 total episodes. But to get into the premise a little bit, it's, and I thought about this when I brought it up, that it's a tough show to talk about without giving too many spoilers, because the fact that there's a twist is kind of the whole appeal of the show. And I don't want to give the twist away too much, but I will say this. The premise is it centers on a character named Walter, played by Stephen James, who also played Jesse Owens in the movie Race, which was fantastic. And he's a war veteran. He's done a couple tours of duty, and he comes back with some post-traumatic stress disorder. He's seen a lot of stuff. He's been through a lot. And so he volunteers to go to this facility to get help for his PTSD. And let's just say that this secret government facility where they're treating him for his PTSD isn't exactly what it seems. Let's put it that way. And that's kind of where the sinister psychological drama part comes in, and the way it kind of builds and the way they tell the story is really really compelling, because they tell it from 2018, I think, which is the year that he returns and goes to this facility, but they also juxtapose it against current day, which is a couple years later. And Julia Roberts plays the part of his main therapist at the facility. And so they focus a lot on their interaction and him going through this program and them treating him for his PTSD. But a couple of years later, when they follow Julia Roberts in her present life, she can't remember any of it. And you're trying to figure out why she can't remember any of it. And those two stories, as they start to converge, is really where the tension builds and where it gets really, really good. So it's really well done.
Doug, is there a goldfish or something about this?
A goldfish?
Is there anything about gold? I'm trying to remember something that I saw. Like I'm starting to have a flashback to Julia Roberts' TV show. I thought I might be thinking
there is a fish tank in her office. Trying to remember if that was I don't know if that's a real significant, like,
maybe
Easter
it's
egg
just something a visual I remember from maybe a commercial I saw or something. I'm having flashbacks.
I think you're right. I think you're right about that. There is a fish tank in her office. Maybe just a visual that you remember. I don't remember it being that.
Is there a significance to the fish or the fish tank? Is there
He's still thinking about the boys.
No. Yeah.
Do people have sex with the fish?
Yes.
Yeah.
No one has sex with the fish that I remember.
So Janelle Monáe, is she second season then only?
Yes, so she is second season, exactly. So the first season basically follows the story of the podcast, and then the second season deviates from that. And there's still some holdover from the first season. There's ties between the story in the first season and the second season, but it does go off in a bit of a different direction. It's a little confusing, the second season, but it's still really good. And it's 7 episodes. The first season's 10, second season 7. Still very much worth it. And Chris Cooper is fantastic.
I love Chris
second
Cooper.
season. Yeah.
I love
Bobby
everything. I love
Cannavale.
everything.
You're a
Chris
big
Cooper
Bobby
does.
Cannavale fan too, aren't you?
So good.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Bobby Cannavale fan. So and you know, he was amazing in Boardwalk Empire, amazing, and he was fantastic in Vinyl. I thought, which was short-lived. I thought he was really good in that show, and I liked his character in Chef a lot too. So I'm a big Bobby Cannavale fan, and he.
Oh my gosh, I forgot he's in Chef. That's great. Yeah.
He's
Great
only in
movie.
it for like the first 20 minutes of the movie, but he's got a great role.
That's fine.
So and Sissy Spacek and you know who else is in it who I love? Speaking of Boardwalk Empire, is Shea Wiggum, who played Nucky Thompson's brother, the sheriff. And so I don't know if any of you saw that show, but he was great in that, and he was also great in the third season of Fargo. So he's one of my favorites as well, and he's great. He's great in this show too. So yeah, I mean it's loaded with talent, really compelling, really easy to binge.
So
And,
Doug, why do you think this didn't catch on? Like maybe it did, and we're just not seeing it. And there's so much content that's out there right now that's good. Like why are we not talking about this more?
I honestly don't know. I mean, I don't know if they promoted it much. I don't know. I really don't know the background in terms of whether they view it as a failure, if they expected it to be bigger and it wasn't, or what. I really don't know. I will say that Julia Roberts, her character in the film, she does a great job with the character because it's not big Julia Roberts like dominating the screen and the scenes, and she's got a very low key, kind of timid, trying to do the right thing kind of character, and I just don't feel it's not like Pretty Woman where she's dominating the. It's not I don't feel like it's a vehicle for Julia Roberts. I feel like she just plays a great role in the show. And maybe from that standpoint, they didn't want to promote it as some big Julia Roberts vehicle. That's the only thing I can think of aesthetically in terms of why maybe it didn't blow up. But even that is a flimsy explanation in my book because of how loaded the cast is. I just don't know why. I don't know why it flew under the radar. It's not surprising to me that you guys haven't really heard of it or watched it. So everyone I tell, it's one of those shows where I tell everybody, you got to watch Homecoming. They're like, what are you talking about? And I don't think anybody takes me up on it.
It's no Mystic Pizza.
Right?
No Mystic Pizza.
Yeah. But it's really good.
All right. Awesome.
Nice job.
And where is it on again?
Prime.
Another Prime.
Okay.
Yeah.
Full of Prime.
I think. I'm pretty sure it's Prime.
Uh-oh.
Somebody's drinking.
I know. Somebody might be drinking. I thought that might be worth a drink. In case someone's waiting to drink, go ahead and drink in case I'm wrong. I'm 90% sure it's Prime.
All right. Good job, Doug. Excellent. First. All right. Now we're going to move on to Operation Mincemeat.
Yummy.
On Netflix.
Yeah, on Netflix. So as Jeff might tell you guys, I know you guys are new to the show, but I have this love affair with all things World War II. And I love documentaries. So I also love anything that tells a story, especially about things that I never knew about. And I have to be honest with you, with as much as I've known about World War II, and I am a World War II-ologist, I had never heard of Operation Mincemeat before Netflix put this show together. Were you guys familiar with the story of Operation Mincemeat?
No.
No, I'm hoping you tell us all about it.
I'm super surprised, right? So first off, the movie is a 2-hour movie on Netflix, produced by Netflix. It's directed by John Philip Madden, who I loved him from Shakespeare in Love, and he won an Oscar for that. He also directed one of my very favorite humorous movies, which is The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. I don't know if any guys saw that, but that is a freaking hilarious movie with Dev Patel.
Didn't that come out at the same time as Homecoming?
I don't know about that. I think that's about a 10-year-old movie, but it's a very funny movie if you're looking for a date night kind of Netflix movie. Anyway, so what this movie is about, it tells a story that in 1943, right after the Germans lost the Battle of Stalingrad and the Second Front had been opened up, Churchill had made a promise to the United States that he intended to follow through on, and that was that the Allies, led by the British, were going to invade Sicily and create essentially a second front through Italy, which is interesting because when we all talk about World War II and the Second Front, we always think of course, D-Day and the landings in France, right? But in fact, that's not true. The real Second Front had been the landings in Italy and more specifically Sicily. And so what's super interesting about that is that Sicily was a super obvious target. The Germans knew it. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew that at some point the Allies were going to come across to Sicily and make their way into Italy and take Italy out of the war. And so the Allies had to create a distraction. They had to create a diversion and basically convince the Germans that this third front landing was going to happen in Greece. And the way they devised this plan is that they were going to purposely sink a submarine in the Mediterranean and have a spy basically wash ashore in partisan Spain with plans for the invasion of Greece. And this was going to be such a compelling situation for the Germans, such an intelligence coup for the Germans, that they would redirect all these forces, in theory, from Italy to Greece to defend these fake landings. And would you believe me if I told you that this entire Operation Mincemeat story and production in real life was put together by Ian Fleming? You guys know who Ian Fleming
James
is?
Bond.
Oh yeah.
James Bond, right?
Where do you think you are, Ron?
Right. So he was an officer in the British Army during World War II, and I had no idea that he was an intelligence officer with it for the Allies. And so, super interesting that this, the James Bond character came from the same guy who created Operation Mincemeat, who might have won the war for the Allies. So it's a super interesting story. It stars Colin Firth, who I think is great in everything he does. The character who I think is particularly good is the female lead, who is Kelly MacDonald, who Kelly MacDonald from she was in No Country for Old Men as the wife. And what's really funny about that is, if you've ever heard Kelly MacDonald talk, she's got the thickest Irish accent you've ever heard in your entire life. And I always
she was in Trainspotting, I think. That's where I know.
As well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Boardwalk Empire.
She was in Boardwalk
Empire.
Empire.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right. She was in Boardwalk Empire. It's funny because I always think of her as, like, I saw Gosford Park and I saw some of the other old things that she did. But you're right. She was in Boardwalk Empire. She was in a couple of the Harry Potter movies. But for whatever reason, I always think of her as No Country for Old Men. I just thought she was so great, and I love that movie. Like
She was
like
great.
no other.
She was great in that movie.
So they do a really, really good job of telling the story. There's some interesting side stories about how the lieutenant commander, played by Colin Firth, is actually a Jewish lawyer, and so the Jewish part of the story becomes a bit of a distraction for the Allies, and they got to figure out how to navigate that. What also is interesting is that the dude that they have to find a body, right, to wash ashore. So, like, who are they going to get? And the Germans aren't idiots. They're going to do their research and figure out who this person actually is. And they're going to check the backstories, and they're going to, so in order for this thing to come off properly, like they legitimately have to create a character in this body and like build like a legitimate backstory that the Germans are going to investigate and find, like things like marriage licenses and birth certificates, and when they join the Allies, when they join the British intelligence, and how they got promoted, like they would actually, and they talk about, and this is real life, the Germans legitimately went after the intelligence of this dude that washed ashore, when in fact this was a vagrant that died at a hospital for people that basically have no family. So I mean, it's a terrible story that they just use bodies like this, but this dude contributed to winning the war. So anyway, it is a fascinating story. It almost falls apart 10 different times, and because of that, there's all kinds of intrigue, and I think it's a super interesting watch, and I highly recommend it. So check it out. It's on Netflix. It's about 2 hours, and I think you'll enjoy the ride and learn something about how the Third Front happened and how Italy was essentially knocked out of the war through deception.
It's so funny as you're talking about this. I'm like, this sounds so familiar. I think I read a book about Operation Mincemeat because there's an independent movie from '99 called Treasure Island. And I remember they were doing something very similar in that movie as a fictional movie, but basically based it on Operation Mincemeat. And so I read about that just to figure out what the hell this thing was. So,
Yeah.
but that was set in San Francisco and really had nothing to do with the army that much other than being kind of more of a background. So, but I read that story about the tramp that they had. And so as you're saying this, I'm like, God, how do I know this? So
Well,
I can't wait to see the movie. It sounds great.
It's really an interesting movie. I really, really enjoyed it. I felt like I learned something coming out of it. I will just say one thing that has always fascinated me about, once the Russians had won in Stalingrad and there was the Eastern Front was now becoming a very serious issue for the Germans. Did any of you guys, we all played Risk as a kid, right? It's like,
I played Axis and Allies. But
the Axis. I mean, there's no way, if you played Risk, you would know there's no way to protect yourself in Europe. There's too many borders, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to protect yourself in Risk, you go to South America or you go to Australia and you start from there, right? But with Europe, there's too many ways to invade Europe, and I have to believe that if Italy didn't work out for the Allies, they would have done it through Amsterdam or Finland, or they would have done it through Spain or Portugal, or they would have done it, through Greece or through, the Aegean somewhere. So I don't think there was a way that once the Eastern Front opened up, the Germans were going to be able to protect Europe from being invaded. I just think this is super interesting that this is where all the Germans were. They were defending Italy, and then suddenly they weren't, all because of Operation Mincemeat. So check it out. I think you guys will enjoy it.
it does sound fascinating. I'm definitely going to watch that. That's really cool.
I'll definitely watch that. I'm a big history guy too. So yeah, absolutely.
Doug's a big Civil War nut, and he's teaching Civil War classes. Check out his M10 social website, and you can sign up for Zoom classes. Doug and I were fortunate enough to have one of the greatest Civil War teachers ever in high school, Maxwell, Jerry Maxwell.
Great Jerry Maxwell.
Interesting.
And we literally had an entire semester. Doug was smart enough to keep the notes. When I tell you it was an entire semester just Civil War, where usually it'd be like a day or a week, right? This was him and another teacher were like experts, like down to which was the 6th general at this thing, and they would and they would teach. There was a whole group in our school, North Farmington, the huge World War II class we took. I mean, there was really great history classes where I think eventually there were issues, and they couldn't do them anymore. But Doug and I were fortunate enough to do that. And now Doug has turned it into an enterprise. So check out his website. All right. Awesome. All right. So just one more thing, which isn't really a full review, but because Ron's back and Ron has talked about Ozark so much, Robin and I, my wife and I, we watched the entire Ozark.
I still haven't.
Oh
no,
my
me
God.
neither.
Okay, so we have to.
I had
no
excuse
spoilers,
after excuse. Well, okay, I wasn't going to say what literally happened anyway, but let me just say I had there's many shows you could go back and just excuse after excuse why I didn't watch Ozark. Finally, I just sat down, got through the first episode, which is a great episode. That's not what I mean. It's just it's a really dark episode, and I just wasn't ready. If I was ready for a dark episode. Actually, doesn't lighten up, but which isn't a lot to say for the show. But it's not that. It's dark in a different way. It's just anyway. It's great. It's a hard show to watch. I agree with that with It's a hard show to watch in the sense that it's very nerve-wracking and frustrating, and it's like
Yeah.
there's a lot of emotion. You can't just half watch the show. It's you get really really invested as they just weave this deeper and tighter and deeper and tighter and deeper and tighter. And I tell you, I thought Julia Garner was an amazing actress when I saw her and inventing Anna. Yeah, Paul. Wow. That if I had seen that second, I would have been like, yeah, it was good. But I mean, her role of Ruth Langmore in this, she's in all of the episodes as well, is unbelievable. It's like
she has a scene in the final series, in the final season, one particular scene towards the very end of the show that is talked about everywhere, and it is the high point of her entire ride on Ozark. And I would recommend the show just for that final season, for that final scene with Ruth. It really is a special moment for her.
But wow, I thought it ended great, and it was one of those things where it ended, but it didn't end. I mean, the story clearly keeps going and has to keep going, but they were right to end it because otherwise it would just it get too much. But wow, I'm so happy. It's 44 episodes, and it was amazing.
Well, so I agree with you, Jeff. I think the word I use to describe Ozark is I find it exhausting, but I also find it worthwhile. Like I love every episode, but by the time I'm done with each episode, it's hard for me to binge more than 1 or 2 episodes at most because it's so tiring. These shows, you become so invested into what's about to happen, and it's so I don't know how to describe it. It just exhausts you because you're so worried for the characters.
I mean, and it's crazy how I can't even list off like the 3 people that were the best. I mean, literally every actor brought their A game to this. And I tell you, who I loved towards that last season was John Boy from the Waltons plays Laura Linney's dad. Oh man, he was good. I mean, they're all good, but I mean, like everybody was so good in this. I mean, it's just amazing acting. It's great storytelling, and it's just damn, yeah. So anyway, I'm upset I took so long, but I'm glad that I got through it. So I wanted to wait for you, Ron, to come back because I know you watched it, and so I just wanted to kind of say as many times as I said I've put it off. I stopped doing that, and it was well worth the investment of time. It was really, really good.
Jeff, can I just talk for a second about the Manti Te'o?
Yeah, go ahead.
Documentary on Netflix. And Doug, I don't know if you saw that, being a former football guy.
I haven't yet. No.
Yeah, you're gonna have to see that because
that is. I saw a whole bunch of commentary about it online and on Twitter, and how people love Manti Te'o after watching this show.
Well, I'm just going to say this, nobody hates Notre Dame more than me. Right. And nobody hated Manti Te'o more than me. And I will tell you even further, no one took such pleasure in seeing this go down the way it did and participating fully in the memes and fun making that happened afterwards. And I just will say, now I feel bad. I feel legitimately bad about it. Wasn't his fault. He was just an inexperienced Hawaii guy that didn't know about big city catfishing ways, and I feel really bad about it, to be very honest with you. So this is Manti. I know you're listening out there. This is my apology to you. You're a good dude, and sorry about that.
He's your Britney Spears, huh?
So
did you learn a bigger lesson than just this one person, Ron?
I think there's lots of lessons to be learned, but this is I'll pay you $110 an hour for that session.
All right. Well, I think this is a fantastic episode. Great to have Mike White back, and great to bring Doug Cohen into the mix. Doug, remind everyone where they can find you and send their pets on vacations and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Well, so there's 3 websites. So you can go to frameablefaces.com, which is our photography studio here in West Bloomfield, Michigan. That's where I run M10 Social from, which is my digital marketing company where I help people with their content and their digital marketing. And then my new business, virtualpetcations.com. Send your furry friend, even if it's just pretend.
That's awesome.
Mike White, remind us of your podcasting greatness.
Well, you can find me over at Projection Booth Podcast. I also do a show on Columbo, which is available at shabbydetective.com. Do one on Barney Miller. What else are we doing these days? Talking about Rankin and Bass on a podcast called Rankin on Bass. And then we're just starting a new one on the Night Gallery, which is called Midnight Viewing. So all of those you can find links to over at projectionbooth.com.
When do you have time for all these podcasts?
Well, luckily I don't edit all of those, just the Projection Booth.
I'm like the biggest Twilight Zone fan. I got a whole shelf of Twilight Zone. I've never seen Night Gallery.
Oh, really?
Wow.
So far, I would have to say you're not missing much.
Yeah, I don't think he loved it either. I think it was a grind for him.
Yeah.
Rod Serling, that is. And then you also do Rankin Bass. That's Rudolph and stuff, right?
Yes, exactly.
That's very cool. I interviewed this guy, Jim Meskimen. He happens to be Marion Ross's mom, but he worked for something that worked for Rankin Bass. So he actually saw the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer
wow.
in the glass container. So I
Very
thought
cool.
that was cool. Ron, say good night.
Yeah, I'm back in the air. So a lot of Delta Airline movies and shows to be watched, and you'll find me here Wednesday nights, 9:30.
Awesome.
See you guys.
And I am Jeff Dwoskin, host of Classic Conversations. You can check out my latest podcast episode with Cato Kalin. You may remember him from the O.J. Simpson murder trial. He was really great, actually. Really super fun. Classic Conversations. All right, that's it. And we'll, of course, hear Crossing the Streams every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you both for guesting, and we'll see everyone next week. And that has been another episode of Crossing the Streams. Join us every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live on Facebook and YouTube. Follow The Jeff Dwoskin Show on YouTube to be alerted every time we go live with your hosts, Jeff Dwoskin, Ron Lippett, Howard Rosner, Bob Phillips, Sal D'Amelio. We're all in the socials. Follow us, listen to our podcasts, Classic Conversations, and The Sal and Bob Show. Check them all out, and we'll see you next week and every week when we cross more streams right here. See you then.